The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Is it okay if I take this?
Good morning and welcome back to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, your station for fresh news, smart talk all day. It is Monday the 25th of July 2022 and you are on the clock with Erin and Greene. On the clock we engage organizations, institutions, social and cultural leaders, and ordinary people to better understand the impact of public policy, private sector development, and emerging social and consumer trends. On the clock we have conversations that help us understand and navigate a rapidly changing Bahamas. It is Monday, beginning the last week of our Independence Month. I don't know if you noticed, but I've been trying to wear my Independence colors all month. Bahamian t-shirt, something with some groupers on it, my Gombe Festival t-shirt, anything I could find, it signifies the Bahamas flag colors, Androsia. I've been wearing it because promoting culture and sustaining culture takes a lot of work. It's not just here today I feel like a Bahamian. It is here today I'm invested in being Bahamian. And it's investing our time, our energy, our thoughts, our connections, who we decide to connect with, where and how we associate. All of these things are critical to the preservation of culture. Absolutely important. Most of all, the focus on like inculcating, right? I don't know if that's if that's redundant. Is that what it is? But we gotta entrench the culture. We gotta force it. Same way you make children get up every Sunday morning, go to church no matter what. Some of the children have to go to church 3-4 times on a Sunday because to you, ensuring that they're deeply entrenched in faith and spirit and culture of the church is important. We have to do that with everything. And we can do it. We absolutely can do it. And today, joining me in studio, I will have guests from the National Organization of Development Connections International and McFam Marriage, Children, Family Alliance Movement to talk about National Family Week and to talk about the Bahamas Strong Families Forever campaign. Because the family unit is one of the most important tools we have for preserving culture, preserving tradition, ensuring that we document and understand history. That family unit, in fact, we call it the nuclear family because it's just that powerful. I don't know if people realize, I think that's why they chose the name, because it's just that powerful. It is the powerhouse, right, of your community. But before we get into that, I just want to touch on a couple of things in the news quickly. I think we're going to have a full conversation today. First of all, we've all been talking about the tragedy at sea. 16 people confirmed dead, still looking for bodies of others. It's just a very sad time, and condolences to all of the family members. It's a lot to talk about, But I think, what I want to say is never discount the inherent desire or urge, right, to be free to live, free to have a family, free to raise the family, but not just raise the family. Because you say, man, Erin, anybody could have a family, but free, able to, have the capacity to give the people that you create, the union that you create, to give them what they need. Not just to survive, but to thrive, right? And so when we see migration, a vast majority of times, there are people who are seeking a better environment for their family or in which to have a family. That is the inherent drive. Children cry, but yet they come. We need to have a whole National Family Week. We need to have a whole conference on that theme, children cry, but yet they come. We can figure out what it means. Because it don't matter, they come in. And once they're here, they're here. And once they're here, we all have an obligation to ensure that they can thrive, whether they are the children in our own family, or the children in our extended family, or the children in our communities, or just the children in our country. We all have a moral and ethical obligation to ensure that they thrive. And so this tragedy at sea is even more painful when you understand that those people that got on that boat are seeking and searching for the same things that we every day in our own country are seeking and searching for, and they cannot find. We talk more about that later in the week. Another news story, gun violence. Man shot and killed at gas station, Carmichael Road and Faith Avenue. I just want to say, does this mean that the commissioners of polices, to get a little buffer, like y'all give the government 100 days before you start critiquing them, before things get rough? Does this mean that the commissioner of police's grace period is done and it's now time to hit the streets? Or does it mean that the commissioner of police hit the streets from day one? Because you'll notice that the reduction or the shooting violence and the killings sort of took a break right after the appointment of the commissioner. Either way, it was great to hear see the commissioner engaging the public and engaging issues, the media on issues that the public are very concerned about. And so we hope that he continues on that trend and continues to share with us, because we are all impacted by this violence, whether we are criminals or not. Another story, international media reports indicate that the Bahamas is included on the list of, quote, unfriendly, close quote, countries by Russia. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the impact is, quote, the impact is more symbolic than real, close quote. It said the Bahamas has committed, quote, no unfriendly acts against Russia, close quotes. So first of all, I want to say that story, I think, was reported by Jasper Ward on Twitter. First of all, I want to say Bahamas Government Ministry of Foreign Affairs is a glaring typo. Is a glaring type statement. I think you meant to say the Bahamas government. I think you meant to say that media reports indicate that the Bahamas government is on Russia's unfriendliness, not the Bahamian people, not the country, the Bahamas. We cool with Russia. I just send them 3 collect in a bowl of conch salad. I sure we good. The government, the money people, the money we don't get to touch, those people, I think that's where the concern was directed, but not me and Bobo and Lance who sell Ganep on the side of the road. We ain't in that. We are not in that. But it's very interesting. It's a great example for Bahamians to see just how intertwined with the global world we are and the platform. Many, many people before the invasion in Eastern Europe, many people didn't even know the extent to which the Bahamas government and financial services, work with Russia and with Russian clients. It's a great snapshot to just see how global the world, how global we really are. Also, there's union stories. Bahamas Union of Teachers approved CCTV on school campuses, like in principle, but they're also demanding salary concerns be addressed. Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation tours, quote, downtown. It's another very interesting discussion we're going to have soon. And a story I saw, there's a new company in Grand Bahama manufacturing construction grade products, or beginning to. I thought that was a really interesting story. I want to get in touch with them. And then just before I get to these texts, I want to say, do you know what's higher than the homicide count in the Bahamas, people? The vehicular accident count is higher than the homicide count. I just have to mention this because I told you all of my harrowing experience on Friday, where it turns out that the rage, like the thing, the energy that you try to calm down, that's what saved me on Friday. My desire to rage, the reflex to rage against the machine is what saved me on Friday. But I should not have to rely on that for safety. And I saw a video of the aftermath of a horrible accident. I just want to say thank goodness the driver of that vehicle was safe. They breached the median. The barrier broke and pushed the railing through the windshield into the cab of the vehicle. It appeared as if it was right into the path of the driver. And I just want to say everybody who saw that video are just happy that you survived. We took 3 minutes to say nothing. We wasn't fussing, nothing. 3 minutes just to be happy that you survived. And then to hope that, this wasn't due to your own recklessness or lack of awareness or understanding for the need to pay attention while you're driving. Too many people are driving with their cell phones in their hands, still pushed up in their face, hunched over the steering wheel, hunched to the left or the right of the steering wheel, bend down below the dash of the car. Will it not matter to you until you see somebody in PMH dying? Will it not matter to you till you see somebody's little children with their Grammy and their auntie and their brother wondering who's going to take care of them? It's just too much, people. It's just too much. All right, I got some text here. Text says, great show as usual, Miss Greene. What's going on in this country? On the weekend, there was a shooting by a local gas station. I know someone out there would say, well, that ain't my problem, but it's a local gas station. Any one of us could have been there. It feels as if the country is just burning before my eyes. All right. Another text here. Morning, Miss Greene. I am perplexed. $8,000 a head for smuggling, but didn't have enough wisdom to provide or buy life jackets. 60 on one boat. That captain told the parents of the dead child was ignorant for not buying a life jacket for the child. They failed him. Only the child carries my sympathy. I am sorry. I see it as child neglect. I could appreciate sort of that sentiment. How do you manage and process your emotions in a situation like this? Who do you get mad at? See, the problem is when you try to ascribe blame, like when you try to place blame on somebody, if you don't have anybody to place it on, you become even more frustrated and enraged, right? And so I could appreciate what you're saying. Well, I'll tell you this, you know what the play is, right? Life jackets, simple life jackets take up space. They probably refuse to let them bring their life jackets on the boat. You think them people didn't want to have life jackets? You don't think they don't want that? Of course they want that. But there must be a dynamic involved that causes them not to have it. Is it that the bright orange, the lights may attract the attention of a helicopter flying over or somebody shining a light in the darkness? Is it that you can't put as many people on the boat? But I appreciate that when we don't have a way to process our frustrations, our rage, and I say frustrations, right? Because I'm 46. Human smuggling has been going on in our country for centuries. Not decades, not years, centuries, right? And I think perhaps what we need is a different approach to the discussion about this subject. Because you're absolutely right. We live in the Bahamas. We live in the largest archipelago in the region, in the hemisphere possibly, right? Why is it that every single human, like, you know, when you have in the US, you have a social security number assigned at birth? Well, we should have a life vest assigned at birth. And when you go in to get your vaccinations, as a child, when you go in to get your regular checkups, your age, your weight, your height changes, and your life vest changes. You trade it in, you get another one issued by the state. That's the nature of where we live, and it should be the nature of our culture. The same way that we have cars instead of boats, it's the same way that people don't have life vests on an island that's 21/7 in the archipelago, in a hurricane zone. Got a text here that says they could have worn the life jackets on their bodies upon boarding the boat, so it doesn't make sense that the life jackets would have taken up space. Okay, the texter, I am not familiar with smuggling operations, trafficking operations. I only smuggle fruit out the bush. But I could tell you this, when you're smuggling fruit out the bush, you got to be very gentle not to crush the fruit. Space, those dynamics matter. Trust me when I tell you that person who is in charge of the smuggling operation trying to get as many people in the boat as possible, and that's that. That is that. But thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, texters. I can't get to all of the text right now. I think we're going to, producer, let's go to a break. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to introduce my guests, and we're going to talk about National Family Week, the second annual National Family Week in the Bahamas, and the Bahamas Strong Families Forever campaign. You're on the clock with Erin Greene. Stay tuned to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. We'll be right back.
I used to think of the bank as my personal ATM machine. If I wanted a new car, new furniture, a weekend trip to Miami, no problem, just max out the credit card or top up my loan. I was a big baller until I realized that 75% of my salary was going to pay back all those loans. Fidelity's personal financial coaching was the best solution. Fidelity gave me a plan with a debt consolidation loan that has a built-in savings that pays 5% interest. I now only have one low monthly payment, plus money in my pocket. Give Fidelity Bank a call at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit any of Fidelity's locations or visit a website at fidelitygroup.com.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Parents, it's that sweet time of year again.
What are you talking about? It ain't Christmas yet.
The kids are going back to school, so pick up your copy of the Nassau Guardian's Back to School Supplement, cause
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
put your students in the latest styles at the lowest prices, because summer break is almost over, and our Back to School Supplement is filled with brand name back to school supplies at discounted prices, store locations, hours, and contact details.
It's the happiest season of all.
Advertisers, call the Nassau Guardian today at 302-2300 or call your account executive to get in on the 2-for-1 insertion deal. If it's uniforms, shoes, books, backpacks, calculators, art supplies, laptops, tablets, or whatever is on your back-to-school supply list, your ad should be in the Nassau Guardian's Back to School Supplement.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Hello? Keisha, you something else, boy.
Who this is? Tamika?
You ain't even remember my name? Wow, Dread.
Girl, I've been so busy. You still planning your trip?
Girl, and I can't wait. I right here online booking my car.
You dare planning trip. You vaccinated?
Girl, we had to. We ain't been nowhere since this pandemic started. Girl, and we got a 14-day vacation.
Best vacation ever.
Girl, are you though?
Well, I know you was gonna get the vaccine because you too like travel. When y'all get your vaccine?
Girl, long time. Because you gotta get your first dose, wait, then get your second dose at least 2 weeks before you travel. Johnny get his vaccine and he 12. Even Grammy get hers. Child, and Grammy say she ain't get no money. But I see her hiding that under the mattress.
Child, let me send my list because I know you going shopping.
Keisha, don't play with me.
Vaccinate today, live tomorrow. A message by PAHO WHO, Canada, and USAID.
Love the show? Want to give your support? Become a sponsor today. Call 302-2300 for our rates and packages. That's 302-2300. Become a sponsor on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Good morning and welcome back to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. You're on the clock with Erin Greene on this Monday, the 25th of July, 2022. And I have guests from NOD and McFam, National Organization Development Connections International and Marriage, Children, Family Alliance Movement. And today we're going to be talking about the Bahamas Strong Families Forever campaign and National Family Week, which is July 25th through 31st, so that's starting today, and that's 7 days of good family activity and talks to support the family. Producers, our guest in the Zoom room? Our guest is not in the Zoom room yet. So, sir, please introduce yourself. I do have a guest in studio with me right now.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Tim Rarick. I'm a professor from the United States, and I'm a consultant with NOD and with McFam, and here to help consult on how to address Bahamian social issues, and many of them what you just addressed, and how to use family capital, the core strength of the family, to understand the breakdown of the family, how it perpetuates some of those problems, and how this family can help solve them.
Awesome. So you used the phrase just now, family capital. How family capital could help solve. Well, first of all, what is family capital? I almost about to go out and get me one if I knew that I could generate some capital with them.
Yeah, family capital is a term that I speak often at the United Nations, and I try to consult with many delegates from a variety of countries. I've been doing that for about 8 years now. And we try to help them understand the sustainable development goals. If you want to have sustainable culture and society, it's going to be in the core strength of the family. So a definition would be like mothers and fathers and their children, an extended intergenerational family network, working to meet the economic, physical, social, and emotional needs, and spiritual needs. And what happens is now you're producing competent and individuals who are full of character to be able to be contributing members of society, to be civil, and you'll see a lot less of the list of the things that you just talked about. I wrote some of them down. I was thinking when it comes to homicide and road rage and everything else, texting while driving and human trafficking, all those things can be addressed not solely in the family, but primarily in the family. I mean, people come from somewhere, right, where they have to learn civility and character from something or the lack thereof. So family capital is producing good human beings who are contributing members to society.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sitting here thinking, like, okay, family capital, like from a government perspective, this is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Because supporting families helping families derive, grow up strong, healthy citizens helps me as a government, right?
Correct.
It helps me as a Ministry of Education. It means that there's less focus that my teachers and staff have to put on soft skills, put on home needs or personal care, personal development needs that aren't being taken care of in the home. Mm-hmm. It means that at the community level, that not that I need less programs in my communities, but that I have more support because I have young people who already understand the family unit and then can understand the community unit and how important it is to participate in that. This is awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. The community and the family have to be interdependent and cross-pollinate each other, if you want to put it that way. And when you mentioned this earlier in the talking about Bohemian culture, and I'm not an expert in it. I just have been blessed and fortunate enough to be helping out with that. Mm-hmm. That culture will live or die by the strength of the families, and that's passed through the family and through parents raising their children to teach them about culture. And part of that culture is this going to be a kind, outward-facing, civil culture, or is it going to be something else? And if you've been immersed if all you know is a lack of connection with family and don't know how to form healthy romantic or just personal relationships, and that's all you know, you're not dumb, you're just ignorant. Mm-hmm. And if that becomes a very common thing I know it's very common in the United States and many other countries, then the concept of the core strength of the family is somewhat foreign.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And the value of units of various types becomes foreign as well, right? We take on sort of very hyper-individualistic perspective and approach to all things we do.
Amen. Yeah.
So I talk about, so I grew up in a household where I always had my own bedroom, mm-hmm. right? Like I always had my own TV, and a lot of people say, oh, you privileged, that's very privileged. It was very, very privileged, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like being able to sneak into your own room and eat something that you're not supposed to eat and nobody see you. Right. But then I tell people as well that, from one perspective, it looks like a tremendous privilege. But I imagine from another perspective, growing up in a household where you shared a room with siblings, where you shared the moments that young people have at bedtime, at evening time, right? Like on holidays, on Junkanoo, when you all get to stay up late in the same room. That there's a privilege in that. And that those young people who grow up in that then have learned things that young people who grow up sort of isolated in their privilege do not learn, right? And so young people who grow up sharing a bed and sharing a room sometimes have a much better time sharing space in university. Sharing space as young people developing and leaving the family home. They may have roommates, right? They may rent a house with a couple of people, but they have a much better perspective with that and function in a healthy way because of that privilege, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And those are some of the experiences that we mean when we say family credit.
Right.
Yeah, and family capital.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The home, the family should be the laboratory for how to interact in society. I mean, your examples were spot on. Being in your own bedroom, there's trade-offs for that. There's some pros and cons. And I grew up in a home where I had to always shared a bedroom with one or two of my brothers, and that was good and bad. I got beat up because I was the youngest of the three brothers.
Oh boy, yeah.
But at the same time, we learned to grow together, and just like with muscle growth, it doesn't happen without opposition, without conflict, without without some sort of an opposing force. So, if the family, there's going to be opposition. That's inevitable. There's going to be conflict, whether or not there's contention and hatred that's a choice. And I think when we're in a family environment where we're constantly being pushed to think outside of ourselves, we have to think of our siblings, of our parents, then that can't help but create character for people who go out in society and now think how will this impact others, rather than getting people to be, as you said, individualistic and self-focused. So the family is the best laboratory, has the best potential to. Now, we all know that there's a lot of broken families, and there's families where the moms and dads stay together, and there's still a lot of
tension,
and it doesn't produce the best outcomes. But it's still, the research has shown over and over again that has the most potential to do so. And so if the families fail in a country, political, social, and economic systems fail. That's absolutely clear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say, so being a post-colonial country, having experienced slavery, colonialism, we often tout this idea that the nuclear family is the traditional family, right? But historians and researchers will show you and have shown us, like Nicolette Bethel and Ian Strawn in the Eyes Man documentary, which I think everybody should watch, especially if you're interested in family, right? And how families work and can work. But Nicolette Bethel reminds us that the nuclear family is not the quote-unquote traditional family. Now, it may be the unit that we have determined we want to be the primary unit, family unit, that we strive for, or that we identify as the ideal unit. But historically, the nuclear family has not been our thing for many reasons, economic, legal, all kinds of things, right? But I like the idea of the nuclear family, right? Like the nuclear family is the powerhouse of a nation. That's why we call it nuclear. But most importantly, the family is the powerhouse of the nation because the family is the place where your young citizen first feels loved. They first get not just a sense, but an acknowledgement that they belong.
Yes.
So it's not just a sense, but they are told and they are shown constantly, you belong here. We want you here. We love you here. And so, when we stretch it all the way to community, to nationhood, right? The family, the nuclear powerhouse of the nation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What you're touching on is, about 40 years ago, we've seen a lot of research. It's been going on for 40 years about attachment theory and that people are wired to connect. You can deprive a child of food and water, which I'm not a fan of, and I would never advocate for. But if you deprive a child of love, you can really ruin that child's life. And they have a hard time attaching and connecting with other human beings because they never got that when they were younger.
Yeah.
It can be very difficult. So what we see in a lot of the problems you cited earlier in the show are people who feel disconnected and detached. We have clear evidence that fatherlessness, for example, is more likely to produce boys who are violent, who are more likely to commit acts of crime, homicides, you mentioned that, the shootings. We see a huge trend of that in the United States as well, and many other countries. And so not feeling connected to your parents, where that first connection can happen, can have a whole myriad of problems. People who are constantly connected to their phone, sometimes they feel disconnected to others, and so they bond with their phone. So if we're not bonding with people, we're going to bond with something else, whether that's alcohol, you mentioned that one. We will bond with our phones, we'll bond with drugs.
Or we will engage in unhealthy and risky physical and sexual practices.
Absolutely.
For that temporary moment of attachment or feeling, that somebody desires me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feeling, we get a dopamine shot every time we engage in some sort of activity like that, whether it's sexual or drugs or something like that. And so people are seeking for a sense of belongingness and a sense of, even if it's a short-term pleasure, if they don't have anything on the inside from that, that their family could have given them, connection, then they'll try to fill in that void with something else. I'll give you a quick example. One of my main areas of focus is father-daughter relationships. And I'm a father of 3 daughters myself, and I've studied the research on this quite a bit. And we find that fatherless girls in the research are much, much more likely to allow themselves to be sexually exploited by men, and that the daughter's first interaction with men and with males is through the father. And if that doesn't happen, well, nature, we found that doesn't go away. She will try to fill that in other unhealthy ways. So that's why you'll see so many more. Well, I'll just put it this way: the research has found that she will develop sexually earlier, and she'll have more sexual activity as a teenager and a younger age if she does not have an active, loving, involved father. So that's just one example of a connection that can cause, if you replicate that hundreds, if not thousands of times, vast social implications.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we have a call on the line.
Yes.
Let's go to this caller. We are talking about National Family Week and the Bahamas Strong Families Forever campaign. Good morning, caller. You're on the clock.
Good morning, Miss Greene.
Good morning, Sparky. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm your guest. You know, Miss Greene, I've observed that this same particular thing with the gentleman's talking about over my time. I always tell you, I'm 71 years old. Now, I remember when I was young, families seemed to be bonding much closer than they are now.
Mm-hmm.
On Sundays, we all went to church. When we came home, we had our Sunday dinner. We all sat around the table. The father was maybe to the head of the table. The mother to the other. We passed the dishes around. Everybody sat, said prayers, and passed the food around. Everybody ate. And then we got ready. We rested. Then we went to Sunday school, 3 o'clock. But during the day, every Sunday, the families used to go around to visit the other family members. Like, we'd always go by our grandmother's house.
Mm-hmm.
Then from the grandmother's house, we'd go by Uncle so-and-so, or Uncle so-and-so. My father had 6 brothers. It was 6 of them. And we would go around to visit each one of the brothers or something every Sunday, just to stop by and hail our cousins and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
People don't do don't very rarely do that these days. And I notice a lot of things what happens also. When a young man starts to get, teenager, and he starts to bond and become infatuated with a lady, he leaves his home, his friends, and he goes to his girlfriend's house. And for some reason, he gets attached to his girlfriend's family. Should they get married, he get attached to his mother-in-law, his sister-in-law, his wife's family, her brother, her daddy, and he forget his own family and forget his own friends. And you don't see them no more until he get a divorce. Then he come back looking for his old friends.
I hope you open your arms, Sparky, now. I hope you open your arms wide and welcome him back in, because he need family after that divorce here. Trust me. But it's an attempt to become a part of that family, and to show them that they could trust him, and that's important too, because when the children become involved, you can't tell your mother-in-law that her grandchild is, her grandmotherness is not equal to your fatherness. You just can't tell Grammy that. I mean, you could tell her you leave and suck her teeth because she's polite, right? And then she gonna yuck up her grandchild and love them up, right? But these are dynamics that, Sparky, I realize that we don't talk about, and we haven't talked about over the decades. And more than that, are we talking about it in song and music, right? Are these things important in our culture? And are we telling each other that they're important through song and music? But we got some songs, like Nosy Mother-in-Law. I can tell you right now, I feel shame because I can't remember the original, but I can say Anwar the Junior, right, has a new version of that. Where are the songs to let young people know how important family is and what we think about it and what we will do to preserve it? We got songs about all kind of things. Ghost Move and this and that, and Jack and Jill went up the hill, but we don't have songs really about what happens when they come back down the hill with the paper, right? And we need a bit more of that as well. Okay, sir, let us go into if you don't mind, the Bahamas Strong Families Forever campaign, 22-23. So it's it's a 12-month campaign?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. So, since I'm a consultant for NOD and McFam, I'll go ahead.
I was just saying, okay. Producer, is our guest in the Zoom room yet? Okay. No, she hasn't.
She said she hasn't received the Zoom link. I guess maybe the email address may not
have worked properly. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
So let's talk about the campaign a bit.
Yeah. So as far as I know, the campaign for 12 months is kicked off by the National Week of the Family. As you said, this is the second annual one. And I feel a little qualified to speak to that since I'm not a Bahamian myself. But I am happy to be here and happy to be a consultant for it. But and I think more countries should have a National Week of the Family and have a celebration like this and have a campaign to do this. You mentioned media. This is a media thing that's happening between you and I that should be happening more often. We need to talk about it more often, and more entertainment media needs to be produced, such as music and movies and other things.
Yeah, absolutely. And okay, so National Family Week is absolutely important. And people say, man, Erin, you don't have any children, and your persuasion, you don't sound like you want children. That doesn't mean I don't understand the importance of family, or that I don't have a desire to be a part of a family, or a desire to make my own family. But the work, right? It requires more than just a campaign. It requires more than just wonderful government initiatives like this. Government to launch free Wi-Fi in one park in every constituency. But an initiative like that, like I'm so glad it's happening, like coinciding with National Family Week. Because now, here's what happens, right? It's hard in the house. You may want to, Sunday, you finally get a Sunday off from working the big hotel job. You get to stay home with the family for that Sunday. Daddy, we want to watch movie, man. We want to watch movie. And you're looking at them children like, look here, I'm not taking all 7 of y'all to Fusion. I refuse. But now you could go in the park, set up a little projector, right? You could go online and order a little mini projector for $30. You could get one locally maybe for around the same price. Now you could go on the park, set up a couple of kids' movies to watch with your kids with the free Wi-Fi, and have a great family day in the park. And initiatives like this, sort of complement the work of civil society and private sector actors to grow the network or the infrastructure or the environment necessary for families to thrive.
Absolutely, yeah. So these kind of campaigns, initiatives are helpful, and as you said, that I think one of the best things can be done is, as you said, have the government facilitate family connection, facilitate and encourage that. Of course, you can't legislate love. You can't force someone to do that. But you can facilitate that. You can encourage that in the culture that you create. But
I could say, in fact, May 15th is International Day of Families. And within a number of UN treaties, once the provisions are all put together, what you find is that the state has an obligation through the treaties that it's signed onto to support the nuclear family, to provide resources, to provide enabling environments, right? And to stay ahead of the law, to ensure that there's a legal environment that supports families and the growth of families.
Yes, and I think we need to approach to that. I think there's an old saying that you can have a fence at the top of the cliff, or you can have an ambulance at the bottom, and I think we need both because we're human. We make foolish mistakes, and so the government typically has been, when it comes to family breakdown and the problems that stem from that, an ambulance at the bottom. But some of these initiatives can be a fence at the top, and to help repair, that's the ambulance, and then prevent future or the lack of belongingness that you talked about earlier. And so I think that approach, have governments figure out how can they help the family and sometimes get out of the way of the family instead of trying to replace them. And some governments have sadly have done that, well-intentioned, but maybe some of their programs have replaced dads or replaced the family unit itself and become now the parents. So we've got a preventative approach, fence at the top, reparative approach, ambulance at the bottom, and we need both. And I think governments can help with programs and initiatives to facilitate both of those.
And then add a couple of things, right? Like, so now we need a lifeguard in the tower to not just check for people dangerously close to the fence, but to check for breaches in the fence, right? And then we need that lifeguard in the tower to also monitor for when people are falling, because we sort of have this approach here that, look, if you wanted a good life, you would have done well in school. You would have done what it takes to get a good grade when you were leaving school. And I say to people like, listen, that child has superseded anything that you could have produced in yours, without water and electricity in their home, with 3 children, younger siblings that they had to take care of as well as themselves. This child has made it beyond a B. They've made it beyond a C. They've made it beyond a failing grade. And this child has excelled. If we had seen them dangerously close to the fence, if we had seen the accident that bumped them over the fence, we may have been able to throw out a net. And and catch them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was speaking at a.
Oh, just one
Go ahead.
second. Our second guest is in the Zoom room as well.
Okay, great.
Absolutely. Good morning, ma'am. How are you? Okay, we're waiting. I think she's on her way in.
Okay.
To the Zoom room. You know, sometimes there's a little lobby and they have drinks in there. It's very nice. People take
That's some
their-
Zoom room. I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
get in there.
Absolutely. But I'm so happy you're here with us today. So let's sort of get back.
Oh,
to
yeah.
that. So the pillars of the campaign. What are the principles that the campaign is based on, and what are the things that we're trying to promote through the campaign?
I think the main principles are that the family is the fundamental unit of society, and we need to recognize and address a lot of the issues that are breaking up the family. And maybe it's just so common that it's like a fish who's been in water its whole life, and you ask a fish, what's water?
Yeah.
Can't describe the water because it's only known water, right? It's only till
Right.
it goes on the land that the fish goes, oh, okay, now I think I know what wet means.
Yeah.
So if we only lived in a culture or in a home or an environment or a neighborhood that has family fragmentation or family breakups, like just single parents, or maybe just all we've seen is violence or something else, then that's the fish in the water. So one of the campaign's principles of the campaign is try to help people see that we can improve. We can rise above our circumstances. We don't have to be a victim of the past. That we can, no matter our past, we can produce and create a healthy family with the right ideas. And so education and information is liberating from maybe false beliefs or ideas that you've picked up through your own upbringing of
Yeah.
no fault of your own.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, we had 1056, right? I watched this movie with Robin Williams. I was still in my teens. I think it's called Being There. And this man, he died, and like he's in purgatory, and he really wanted to get back to his family, and he missed him, and he went through a series of reincarnations.
Oh, is this what dreams may come?
It's possibly.
Okay.
I think the
Robin Williams.
the,
Yes.
the principle of it was, the thing that struck me was, I think he said, or somebody said to him, that the thing with children is they don't care how messed up their parents are. Those foibles, those character traits, they don't care about those. What they care about the most is that you're there, that you're present, and really there, with loving arms.
Right.
That you see them and you accept them the way that they accept you. And I think that what we can do for families is to make it so, right? To support that, to support the parent, to be the parent that they need to be. We're not going to let people sort of wallow, as people have the potential and the capacity to rise above their circumstances, but, to support this idea that your desire to be with your parents is good and it's okay, and that's ultimately what we want. Like you say, we don't want to replace your parents. We want to create an environment where you can be with your parents. And so while we talk about like adoptions and fostering people, I think we also need a drastic reapproach, right? A shift in perspective, because I think we're at the point where we don't just need to adopt children, we need to adopt family units. Right? And so like we're dealing with a housing crisis right now. And so I don't see it as a conflict, but as an opportunity that if we create the properly structured housing facilities, that we could essentially adopt families and place them in an enabling environment with an overarching program to support sort of the healing or the transition to balance for a family unit, and then get them to a point where they can thrive without that level of support.
Spot on. And a lot of people are just lacking good information. And so if you were raised in a very broken home and maybe you experienced abuse or neglect or something even more severe, there's a thing called the transitional character in the research of the social sciences. Transitional characters are people who rise above their circumstances, learn there's a better way, and they start healthy families. I have one of my former students is from Haiti, and she grew up in a single-parent home. Her father was abusive, and then he left the home, and she hated men. She hated men until she was about 16, 17, 18 years old, and then she got some better information. She, I think it was a local pastor who took her under her wing, who became a father figure. Other men came into her life that were a healthy modeling of what a man should be. And then she got good parent education. She got good family life education. She became well educated. And she healed from the past, and now she has 2 children of her own, married to a very good man. She's pursuing, I think, her second master's degree. She's a transitional character. She doesn't have to repeat her family formation and upbringing. And I've seen that in many countries and in many cultures. That can happen.
And I think for society, that's what our job is. Our job is to make that possible for as many people as possible.
Yes.
In enabling environments. I mean, it connects to everything, right? So we're in a housing crisis. Right now, there's a story the government is considering rebuilding or building homes in Abaco, and I argue that they need a different structure, a different policy, different types of homes. But the government has been very good in understanding the nuclear family or that primary family unit as a powerhouse, and they've had a low cost, a access to mortgage program to allow people to qualify for these homes. But what we need now is a change in the way that we build the homes. If we build if we build the units in a circle, so all of the courtyards, they share the courtyards because all of the doors look on each other. While you perceive that you lose a degree of privacy, what you gain is community, and you gain an enabling environment. Infrastructure that makes it possible for you to easily be aware of what's going on with your neighbors. So now this whole, when my mommy go to work, I can sneak him in the back door. Can't work because the back door is as visible as the front door.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so things like that. There's the way that the state can support the healthy families, and then there are ways that we can also support it by being a healthy, effective and present part of that environment,
Yeah.
And so I was telling you as we were walking up, I don't have any children, but I have a family of raccoons that have adopted me, and I'm going to bring them to every National Family Week activity we have this week, because even animals have families. It's inherent. It's a part of nature.
It is.
And we can't, there's a desire, and when we find a desire to not be a part of a family, it's usually because of trauma. It's usually not inherent.
Yeah.
And so we know there's a space that may require, or a person that may require healing in that space.
Right. And if somebody is lacking a desire for a family, I think that desire is still there. It's just been muted or covered up because of past trauma and experiences, and totally understandable. But as they find healing from that, I think that desire that's within them will start to grow. And whether they become a father or a mother, or a father figure or a mother figure.
Absolutely. Do you have contact information for Nod or McFam for people who are interested in participating in this year's activities?
I have an email address,
right.
and you can Google Nod Communications or McFam. The email address is nodci.mcfam or mcfam@gmail.com. But I would look up and Google their websites.
Absolutely. Nod Communications and McFam.
McFam, the Bahamas.
McFam,
Correct.
Bahamas. Awesome. Thank you very much, sir. Tell the audience your name again.
Dr. Tim Rarick.
Merrick, right?
Rarick, with an R-A-R-I-C-K. Thank you for having me.
No, man, thank you. This was a wonderful discussion. I think the audience enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day. And to the audience, thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Guardian Radio AM is up next with Cecil Newry.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.